Trinidad and Tobago's Prime Minister rejects calls to step down and defends himself at the conclusion of the email gate probe. Our top story in Caribbean Newsline for Thursday, July 18th. From the CMC News Center in Bridgetown, I'm Ricardo Roberts. Good evening. Thanks for joining us. Trinidad and Tobago's Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley has dismissed a suggestion by the opposition United National Congress that he should resign following the closure of the email gate investigation and the announcement by police that there was not sufficient evidence to move forward with criminal charges. It was on Wednesday that police said no one would be prosecuted in the controversy that sought to link former Prime Minister Kamala Persad-Bissessar, then Attorney General Anand Ramlogan, Local Government and Works Minister at the time Suraj Rambajan, and Gary Griffith, who was then security advisor, to a plot to undermine the judiciary, the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions, and the media. Now, speaking at the post-cabinet press briefing on Thursday, Prime Minister Rowley said he was happy to hear the matter had been brought to a close, and he defended his decision to take to Parliament in 2013 the 31 emails he said he received in 2012 from a whistleblower purporting to show correspondence outlined in the plot. The Prime Minister said he had not made the emails public initially, but then took the matter to the President, George Maxwell Richards, at the time, who agreed there should be an investigation. Rowley said the documents were forwarded to the Integrity Commission, but 6 months later, no investigation had been started. He said it was then he took the matter to Parliament. Now, Rowley brushed aside calls for him to apologize and resign by making reference to the letter written by the Director of Public Prosecutions at the conclusion of the investigation.
They're calling for apologies, they're calling for expulsion, they're calling for resignation. I simply want to say, I confine myself to the documents, and the letter says on page 1, on the face of the purported emails, these high office holders appeared to have sent email messages to one another during the month of September 2012.
Prime Minister Rowley also highlighted the DPP's conclusion that the investigation had started 9 months after he received the emails and 6 months after he requested a probe.
The DPP is saying in this letter of conclusion that coming to this issue 9 months after, it cannot be denied that this factor of lateness had the potential to affect the outcome of the investigation. The DPP goes on page 3 to say, it is also noteworthy that notwithstanding the apparent form and structure of the purported emails themselves, their content, when matched against evidence of the prevailing circumstances in Trinidad and Tobago in September 2012, was sufficient to reach the standard of probable cause. These relevant applications were therefore successful, and warrants were obtained for the internet service from the internet service providers.
At a press conference on Wednesday, Attorney General Faris Alwari also stressed that it was clear from the DPP's report no one was exonerated. He pointed out that the report stated the emails could not be confirmed or denied, but it did not dismiss the contents of the correspondence.
Evidence gathered supported the fact that several of the events referred to in those emails can be confirmed as having actually occurred in the way and at the time referred to in the emails.
Staying in the Twin Island Republic, Police Commissioner Gary Griffith is accusing politicians of worsening the crime situation by funding criminals. He says the last 4 governments have awarded state contracts to known gang leaders, a practice he says has fueled gang wars and contributed to an upsurge in homicides over the last 15 years. More in this TTT News report.
Referring to a shootout on Sunday evening in Mangawali, Lavantil, the police commissioner hinted at the root cause of the crime problem in the country.
So we had a shootout where several persons, inclusive of innocent women and children, could have been killed because gangs are fighting over a box train contract. That is what we have reached to in this society.
He stated that this practice has been happening for years through HDC, URP, and other programs.
It is difficult for the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service to go out there and do our job when it is the state is funding gang members.
The commissioner hopes the residents in the communities open their eyes and see that they are being used by the gang leaders. He said these people are not community leaders, but urged residents to call them as they are, gang leaders. He believes instead of funding their criminal activities, we should follow what the U.S. does.
In the United States, there are over 300 persons of interest that may be deemed as terrorists, but the United States will not give them a contract to pay in the White House. It is common sense.
He called them parasites and said their activities must not be encouraged.
Meantime, multi-million-dollar contracts given to 7 reputed gang leaders at 2 corporations controlled by the ruling People's National Movement will be the subject of an expansive audit that will also include 12 other regional corporations. That's according to Rural Development and Local Government Minister Kazim Hussain. He made the disclosure in a statement issued on Wednesday on the heels of a Trinidad Guardian newspaper report that highlighted a confidential special branch report which named 7 reputed gang leaders who had benefited from multi-million-dollar state contracts from the Diego Martin Regional Corporation and the Port of Spain Corporation. Hussain said he viewed the allegation very seriously and auditors from his ministry are scheduled to begin a probe at all corporations. The minister said once the audit is complete, a report should be submitted to his office by the end of August. Over in Guyana now, opposition leader Barack Jagdeo has rejected the names of 2 people President David Granger suggested could be included in the list of nominees for the position of Elections Commission chairman. Granger had put forward the names of retired Justice Claudette Labine and attorney Cassandra Alves, but they have not found favor with Jagdeo. And Director General of the Ministry of the Presidency, Joseph Harmon, said that having turned down the president's suggestions, the opposition put forward 4 additional names for consideration. He was speaking after another meeting between delegations from the opposition and government side on Wednesday.
At the meeting, the leader of the opposition team presented 4 additional names to be considered and indicated to us that the 2 names that were submitted by the president did not find favor with the leader of the opposition. We agreed that the list of names that had now been submitted, the further list, will be considered by His Excellency the President, and any further directions on the matter will be given by His Excellency the President.
Harmon said it is possible the president could submit more names as well. Granger had already given the nod to 4 names put forward earlier by Jagdeo, but the 2 sides have been tight-lipped about the identities of the 4. The hope is that 2 more names can be added to those to get a final 6 to be officially submitted to the president. Now, discussions were scheduled to continue on Thursday. And still to come, the Bermuda government moves to better protect children from sexual exploitation. Stay with us, we have more news after this.
The theme song beckons everyone to come and see. And if the launch of the 2019 Tobago Heritage Festival is a sign of things to come, patrons are in for a real treat. The theme of this year's festival is an authentic educational experience, and this will be reflected in all aspects of the festival.
We therefore intend to present authentic elements of Tobago's history.
What are the key signs that start to indicate someone might not be safe in a relationship once they've gotten that far?
Yeah, so if you get to a point where the person you're dating wants to see your social media accounts, They want to know what you're posting and how you're posting it.
Oh my goodness.
If they're asking you what you're doing with your time, if they get upset because you're spending too much time with friends or because you're spending too much time with coworkers outside of work, that's definitely a red flag.
The girl them sexy. They bring something tonight, man. I'm not opinion right now, but I have one by the end of the night.
I say the vibes was good. This is like my third time coming here, but this is my first time playing here, and I like the vibes. I come from early because they say, yo, me now come up party early.
So former Vice President Joe Biden is the front runner by a very wide margin in the way too early race for the 2020 Democrat Party nomination for president. Now, I have legitimate concerns about a potential President Biden because of where he wants to put his hands. And no, I'm not referring to that issue. I'm talking about his desire to put his hands, or the hands of our government, deeply into our pockets. Joe Biden is determined that the flood of illegal immigrants violating our border
The Bermuda government is moving to amend laws to better protect children from sexual exploitation. On Wednesday, the Senate passed the Child Safeguarding Miscellaneous Amendment Act, which will see perpetrators facing harsher penalties. Attorney General Kathy Lynn Simmons said the amendment will bring the island's laws up to international standards.
In addition to creating new offenses for child prostitution and other offenses around child pornography and the like, we modernize the language use, we neutralize the gender references, we take away references to things like unnatural offenses and call the offense what it is, meaning anal intercourse without consent. We actually established a National Child Safeguarding Committee legislatively, which gives it real teeth to make policy recommendations to the minister with regard to child safeguarding. The committee consists of all of the agencies responsible for child safeguarding, including the police, court services, child and family services, health, education, BPS, and it puts them in a legislative framework that allows for a greater level of collaboration. We also have worked very hard to ensure that the public will be educated about this whole subject matter.
Additionally, child victims of sexual exploitation would no longer have to face their accuser or jury when given evidence.
So what we've done is make sure that we get effective child testimony, and we want our child witnesses to feel comfortable coming forward to give evidence. So in the bill we have what we call special measures, which account for the pre-recording of a witness testimony given by a child. That does a lot to ensure that our children aren't traumatized in the court process, and that's something that we didn't have in place. We actually made amendments to the Evidence Act some time ago to introduce audio-visual link recording, which allowed a safe space almost for children to give their testimony. So what we have today is an extension almost of that.
Jamaica's opposition People's National Party, the PNP, President Dr. Peter Phillips says he will hold no grudges against his challenger Peter Bunting or his supporters, regardless of the outcome of the upcoming leadership contest. PNP delegates will on September 7th decide on the party's next leader. Speaking on TVJ's All Angles program with host Dion Jackson Miller, Dr. Phillips said if he wins, he will not seek to punish Bunting for challenging his leadership.
There's no first-class, second-class citizen in the party.
So you're saying win, lose or draw after party conference, there no hard feelings? Bunting, Golden wouldn't be out in the cold?
My purpose is not retribution. My purpose is victory.
But can you achieve victory if you don't trust the people around you, or if you have to be looking over your shoulder?
There are lots of ifs in life that we all have to confront. We wake up in the morning, we don't know how the day is going to go. What we have to do in life is to be guided by proper principles.
Dr. Phillips admitted that he has been stunned by some of the things said publicly about the party by Bunting's supporters. He made specific mention, too, of opposition MP Mark Golding, who said the PNP had fundamental problems. Dr. Phillips said Golding had never raised any such issues with him before.
Parties facing fundamental problems, etc., etc. I certainly would be open at any point, have been, Myself, while I was leader, I've been canvassed by and expressed my views to leaders in the past where I have said, hey, I have concerns, can I talk to you about these? I would have myself expected that to have happened.
Staying in Jamaica, the number of people living in poverty declined by almost 20% in 2016, according to the latest Jamaica Survey of Living Conditions. The survey tabled in the House of Representatives this week shows the prevalence of poverty was recorded at 17.1%, down from 21.2% back in 2015.
It pointed out that a number of positive indicators in the economy helped to account for the decline, chiefly economic growth of 1.4% between 2015 and 2016, which saw just under 39,000 more people finding work. It also showed that people were spending more as well. The data show that average consumption went up by almost 5%, driven largely by those who live in rural areas. That increase was due mainly to an increase in agricultural production in 2016, which earned more money for rural households. And as poverty fell, inequality, that is a gap between the lowest and highest earnings, fell to the lowest it has been since 1991. Still, as outlined in the Survey of Living Conditions, the average consumption of the wealthiest 20% of the population was 6 times that of the poorest 20%.
That report from TVJ's O'Shane Masters. And ahead in Newsline Sport, Barbadian Jofra Archer awarded a central contract by the England and Wales Cricket Board. Stay with us. Sport is next.
After an emergency, you can help yourself and others by looking, listening, and linking.
Looking because you want to see if the person has some signs that is in distressing. Looking for the symptoms, how best you can support the person. And then listening, because listening is very important. Listening with your ears, listening with your eyes. If you do that well, then you'll be able to link them to the appropriate resources.
Be ready, look, listen, and link.
My dreams will come true only if I put my trust and my focus is on you.
England's World Cup hero Barbadian Jofra Archer has been awarded a central contract by the England and Wales Cricket Board. The 24-year-old fast bowler will be on an increment contract for the next 12 months as he attempts to clinch a regular place in the England squad across all formats. Now, increment contracts are awarded to players who have impressed in the white ball format but are yet to assert themselves in any of the other formats. Archer has played a single T20 international and 14 one-day internationals, with the bulk of the latter coming during the just concluded World Cup. But on Wednesday, he was left out of the 13-man English Test squad to face Ireland starting in a week's time because of a left side strain. Archer was not considered for selection along with fellow speedster Mark Wood, who has been ruled out for up to a month and a half with an identical injury. The England and Wales Cricket Board said Archer would take a break in his native Barbados before returning to the UK later this month, where he is expected to be a strong contender for the Ashes series. Switching sports now, Guyana captured 8 medals at the just concluded Junior Caribbean Squash Championship in Trinidad and Tobago. HGP Stanford Howard reports.
Continues to showcase their dominance in the sport of squash over in the Twin Island Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. After taking the under-15 title in both categories, the Guyanese did a repeat in the under-17 as well. In the under-17 boys category, 15-year-old Shamari Welcher, who captured the under-15 squash title in Jamaica last year, proved why he's the best at what he does, besides his quiet demeanor, when compared to when he wields his racket, where his shy, unassuming conduct changes. Throughout the 3 days of competition in his quarterfinal match, he went up against Jamaican Sebastian Levon and made light work of him, showing his dominance in an 11-4, 11-2, and 11-4. He then advanced to the semis to play Matthew Elliott of Bermuda, and with a similar fashion continue his impressive win in a straight set, 11-4, 11-2, 11-1. In the final, Welcher went head-to-head against Bajan Darian Ben, who showed some resistance to Welcher in the game, despite taking the first 2 sets 11-3, 11-8. It was Ben who then dug himself out the hole to take the third 11-5 to send the game into a 4th set, which ended quickly as Welcher left Ben in the win to take the 4th 11-2 and the under-17 crown.
Over to action in the INF Netball World Cup, where Scotland managed to pull off a draw in the dying moments of the game against Trinidad and Tobago in what was a tense clash at the M&S Bank Arena in Liverpool on Thursday. TNT were trailing 9-11 at the end of the first quarter before edging the Scots 12-11 into half-time. The Twin Islands Republic maintained a slim lead, scoring 13 goals, while the Scots were hot on their heels and netting 12 goals at the end of the third quarter. But both sides were tied at 34 going into the final quarter before Scottish goal attack Lindsay Gallagher, who scored 23 from 25 attempts, earned a point with a goal in the final moments of play to square things up. 43-43 was the final score. And in an earlier encounter, Barbados was edged 46-43 by Northern Ireland in the first preliminary match of the day. The Bajans were dominant in the first quarter, scoring 13 goals over Ireland's 12. The Irish girls managed to hold off the Caribbean side as they led the second quarter 11-10 and then the third quarter 12-8. But the Bajans fought back and they managed to lead the final quarter by a slim 12-11. However, it was not enough to win and the game ended on 46-43. And Jamaica's netballers were back to their winning ways when they crushed Uganda by 13 goals. Now, although they will not stake a claim in the semi-finals, the Caribbean side dominated the first 3 quarters of the game. The Ugandans then stepped up their attack in the final quarter and won it by 14-10, but the Jamaicans were the overall winners. The final score, 61-48. Here are the highlights.
That's not going to help. Good rebound from Dehaney, particularly on their centre pass. Now Jamaica, and that's when they are fluid, when they are quick through court, when you got that reach, the wingspan of Janelle Fowler, and you find her so quickly it happens. That's better hands-to-hands connection on the feed, and a big shot over a big defence. Just a little bit of miscommunication, and Jamaica mop up. That's the drive I like from Thomas. She just gets the ball and goes. The big ball from Thomas. And the big shot from Fowler. And sweeping the circle like a true goal attack. Will this be the first shot? She loves it. Fowler, as we knew she would, being a standout player for Jamaica, but Williams just trying to make something. Shanice Beckford. Oh, and good take all around her with the bother on for Peace Proscovia. Well, the drive from Proscovia, she was right up on the transverse line. She put the speed on to attack the post. That's good work from Nanfuka.
Thanks, goal shooter obstruction.
There is Aiken. She takes a look up at the clock on her way round and sinks one. The lights go up inside the house to shine on the Jamaican.
And to news in horse racing, Rico Walcott has returned to the saddle after surgery to remove a brain tumor, and he has resumed his winning ways. The Bajan Reinsman champion of the previous Northland Spark, now operating as Century Mile, has had a trio of wins, all coming off his last 3 of 7 rides for the season. Now, having resumed racing on July 8th, having a golf ball-sized tumor removed from his brain, Walcott landed race 2 last Saturday and races 4 and 6 the following day. Here's a look at race 6 with Walcott winning the timely prize in a time of 1 minute, 17.12 seconds.
Moving up is Celtic Lad. They head around the far turn, and Misdemeanor's lead now diminishes to 1 length. Timely Prize now off the rail and challenging for the lead. Timely Prize on the outside. Misdemeanor on the inside. Down along the rail, moving up, Keen on Demand. From the far outside, here comes Tashri. As they come down the stretch, Timely Prize now opening up. Second, Misdemeanor. From the far outside, including Gold. Timely Prize. Keen on Demand, including Gold. At the wire, it's Timely Prize. Keen on Demand second, including Gold third.
And that's the sports. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
When IndyCar hauled to Motown, Honda hoping to keep the good times rolling. Honda's IndyCar stars had swept the previous 2 Motor City doubleheaders. Graham Rahal doubling in 2017. Ryan Hunter-Reay and Scott Dixon splitting the wins a year ago. This year, Mother Nature controlled Saturday. Severe weather delaying the start nearly 2 hours, causing the event to be shortened. Still wet when the green finally came out.
So, as far as your music is concerned, you explain how difficult it is to be in Miami. Preach. And then you're beautiful at that. Preach. I'm going to talk about the big elephant in the room. Preach. How difficult is it to go and speak to executives?
I remember I have a lot of mentors, male mentors in the radio industry, and Wildman Teddy T is one of them. And I remember coming up and telling him I really wanted to do music and stuff, and he was like, you being cute is really it's going to be a rough ride.
Welcome to this year's 50th Caribbean Broadcast Union Assembly on the island of San Andres. San Andres is a small archipelago located in between Jamaica and Panama in the western Caribbean Sea. A lush, exotic island rich in culture, history, gastronomy, and breathtaking scenic views. Known for its beaches and 7-colored crystalline waters, the island of San Andres will be proudly hosting this year's event. CBU members will enjoy top-of-the-line accommodations for an unforgettable experience in San Andres, connecting Caribbean nations through this year's 50th edition of the CBU Assembly.
Again, the major developments of this day: Trinidad and Tobago's Prime Minister rejects calls to step down and defends himself following the report from the email gate scandal. And in sport, England's World Cup hero Barbadian Jofa Archer awarded a central contract by the England and Wales Cricket Board. That's Caribbean Newsline. For news on sports round the clock, subscribe to CaribNews.com. For more for our programming, log on to CaribVision.tv and check out our YouTube channel. We'll be back here again tomorrow, but from all of us at CMC News, thank you for watching. Have yourselves a wonderful evening.